Good day everyone, it's Caitlin, and today we're going to make some 20th century infant nightgowns. So if you're new here, welcome. Hi, my name is Caitlin. I teach old-fashioned sewing skills at my channel, and we make a lot of reproduction clothing. So mostly women's stuff and kids stuff, occasionally men's stuff. My husband sews his own clothes, so I don't need to sew for him very often. So most often it's my stuff, and then trying to prepare for eventual kids. We do early 19th century all the way up through World War II, and then there's modern clothes to be made as well. So I knew that 9 months of knowing you're pregnant before birth happens, in the ideal sense, because sometimes it happens before then, we should probably get started now. So that's why we're here and doing baby stuff, and we're making some flannel little nightgowns today. Alright, so working with flannel again, it seems like most of the 20th century baby projects we've been working with is flannel. This is what I found that I have left, so we're going to make a green one and a pink one apparently. I have an original that whenever we were doing the wrappers, I thought this was just another type of wrapper. And then I did a little bit more research and found out that these are actually nightgowns. So we're making 2 of these. And they're basically exactly like the wrappers, except the slit only goes to right here, and there's a little crochet edging on it. But it should be fairly simple and quick to make up. I'll show you. It's clearly a homemade garment. She didn't even bother folding in the edge twice. It's just folded over once and it's been raveling or unraveling. All of this, same thing. It is machine stitched. Very simple garment. I mean, it just seams right at the very top and from here all the way down. And then the hem, and then the rest of it is just cut with slits and crocheted up, which should be very fast. So we're going to use this to make our pattern and get started. We'll start with the pink. I have my flannel folded in half so I can get a front and a back. Oh, that's just about perfect. Excellent. So we'll need to add a seam allowance to parts of it, namely just the hem and the shoulder seam. Everything else does not necessarily need. Alright, one of my favorite little tools when I'm working with original garments like this is a lovely little rotary cutter, but it has chalk in it. So this is all filled with chalk, blue chalk to be exact. I can take this off if I wanted to and refill it. I have a whole bag of blue chalk, as in I could just trace this out without, getting scissors near the original garment. I'm pretty sure I bought this off Amazon. If I did, I recently signed up to be an Amazon affiliate, and I will put the link below in case anyone else is interested in something like this. I find it incredibly useful. I've had it for several years now, and really anything I trace, this is super helpful. In fact, it's been on my mind to buy another one so I can fill it with white chalk and have 2 different colors of chalk. Because sometimes, if I'm working on a lot of fabrics, blue works, but sometimes I'm working on blue fabrics, and blue is not going to help with that. So if I had like a red or a pink one, or a white one, I think that would be helpful as well. Right, we have a fairly deep hem here, so I'm just gonna entirely eyeball this. We're gonna put about as much effort into our reproductions as it seems the original lady did, which isn't very much. Now I can cut out my pattern. If you're being a little bit more meticulous, you could of course trace out the exact garment and then add on your seam allowance to make sure your seam allowance is even. I find on garments like this, it doesn't have to be exact. I have this much left, so I don't know what we're going to do with the rest of the flannel, but I'm sure we'll come up with a project. Okay, one thing I did forget to do is measure the slit here. So from the top, it is just about 5.5. It's just a hair smaller than 5.5 actually. So I'm only going to cut the top one because I don't want to slit up the back. I only want to slit up or down the front. Oh, I cut that actually fairly even. Somewhat impressed. We have one nightgown cut. I have a bit more of the green fabric. Something tells me that's not going to be wide enough. Not quite. It's going to be a bit more wasteful than I would otherwise prefer. And this one I'll just trace right off since it's not the original. I don't care about getting scissors close to it. More often than not, things like this would have been white, but I didn't have the forewithal to buy white flannel. White's just easier to launder. But I likely will be using, you know, modern washing machines and techniques to wash this as opposed to period ones, so I'm not entirely concerned about it. I think first things first. So right here, right there, and right in these two places as well. Alright, next step will be putting up the hem, so I've already ironed it. All I have to do is sew it. I cannot tell you how much it irritates me right now that this is just a raw edge right here. Sometimes copying to originals takes you to a very dark place in your sewing. I cannot, for the life of me, find any of my crochet hooks except for my big ones. I have two whole sets of tiny little metal crochet hooks. That is what I need. When I organized the sewing room, because it's a new sewing room, I put things away where they made sense, but because I'm not used to working in the sewing room, I don't remember where those places are. I haven't quite learned where to put things, and of course all my fiber art stuff doesn't have a place right now because I was going to go into the weaving room, which isn't even put together yet. I mean, we got it painted. And I gotta paint the trim. As soon as I paint the trim, we can get that put together. I know I've seen them, so they're in this room somewhere. I just don't know where I would have put them because a lot of that stuff is just shoved in the closet, and the closet is shoved from floor to ceiling right now. A fiber art stuff that's going to go into the other room. And I've dug through it, I just can't find it, but they're so tiny. So I think we're going to have to use a regular needle and do a blanket stitch instead, which is not what I want to do right now. But I simply cannot find my crochet hooks. I moved over to the bedroom so I can finish this embroidery. So I started with needle and thread. Halfway through, this is my first one. Halfway through I was like, wait, I know where the crochet hooks are. They were in one of my sewing machine's drawers, like Wilma, the 1870s sewing machine, they were in one of her drawers, and the only reason I remembered that is because I was in my room staring at my wedding quilt, which I last brought to Fort Concho, where we also brought Wilma, and I remember, and for some reason that triggered the memory of me finding the crochet hooks and putting them in the bottom drawer so that, because they weren't historically accurate and we didn't want to pull them out accidentally with visitors around, and I had a bunch of stuff in the top drawer that we needed. All that to say, we can do this for the next one. But I already started on this, so we're going to do the needle and thread on this one, and we'll do the crochet thing on the next one. And that was probably way more detailed than anyone cared about, but that was how I found the crochet hooks. And we've done this before, so most of the other, like the wrapper, and I don't know what else we did, some of the sacks, coat type things, this is how we finish the edge. So we've done plenty of this. I did fold under the edge just a tiny bit, so I probably should have added seam allowance to that. I just didn't think about it at the time. But it was only a tiny bit, so it probably doesn't matter. I didn't have a lot of choices with the colors. I have teal silk ribbon, and this is about the size, about 1/2 inch. It's about the size of the original. And that's the only 1/2 inch ribbon that I had. And so it's like, well, I can do teal for the pink one, but I don't think that's going to look very good with the green. And so I found some 1/8 inch silk ribbon that's like a gold color. So we're doing gold for the green, which I think one of the other things that we did for 20th Century Baby stuff was gold and green. I don't remember what, it may have been like the wrapper, which is very close to a wrapper. It's a wrapper that's, you know, doesn't open all the way down. So the trick is with the ties. I don't know if I'll actually feel safe enough using these as nightgowns for a real baby. They may be for display only. Because the trick with this, you don't want it long enough to wrap around a baby's neck. You don't want it to be where they could choke on it. You also don't want it to be too short where it ties a knot and you can't get baby out of it. So it needs to be like an exact length. I mean, to be fair, we really don't do a lot of stay-over events for 20th century. In fact, we've only ever done one. It was in a modern building too. So most likely these will only be used for demonstration purposes. So like when we do videos of getting dressed videos. So like when I do getting dressed videos, there's usually a nightgown for the first little bit. That's probably what this will be for. Like when I do demonstrations or anything like that, showing people, okay, this is what a 20th century baby looks like, this is what they're dressed as. Like a lot of my 19th century baby clothes right now, I just handed them off to Pioneer Farms because I'm not using them, and they're going to do a display for their Mother's Day program. And so they're borrowing all my 19th century baby stuff right now. So things like that may come up. That would be a good use of these. Again, I don't know if a baby will actually ever sleep in these. Maybe down the road I'll feel differently. And this does look like it will fit a larger baby, so maybe by, you know, an older child I might feel a little bit more comfortable with this. Alright, I'm gonna tie this off and we'll work on the pink one. Alright, here we are with the crochet hook part. So basically all it is I have my crochet hook and I have a loop on it. Wherever I want the stitch, I put the needle through or the hook through, hook it around. It's basically doing a single crochet, except for sometimes it doesn't work, like that time. There it goes. Because there's 3 threads, I'm doing 3 threads instead of 1 or whatever. Just 3 strands of embroidery floss. And so sometimes I grab like 1 or 2 of the threads and not all 3. Looking very similar to the other way we did it. I mean, it's just another way of finishing off edges, other than a blanket stitch. I will say, I think this is probably a little bit faster. It takes way more thread, but it's faster. If not just slightly more difficult, because it's easier to sew with the 3 threads than it is to crochet with the 3 threads. I don't think I could have done this with the other, because I just had a little bit of thread. Like I have maybe 4 inches of thread left after all that. So I don't know if I would have had enough to do this whole thing in that yellow thread. So it's probably a good thing we did this one. So it's probably a good thing we did that one the other way. I don't know why I'm such a big fan of pink and blue together. I think it's adorable. Which of course that, we've talked many times on the channel, that is basically what the vintage baby colors were. It's pink and blue. Doesn't necessarily have to be genderized. I'm old-fashioned. I don't necessarily believe in gendered colors for babies. They're babies. So I would put this on a little boy and I'd put this on a little girl. And quite frankly, I'd rather have as many unisex clothes as possible. I'm not a fan of the neutral, beige, gray stuff. I think that just looks awful. But any and all colors, I think, just clothes I could use for both. I would 100% put my sons in dresses for the first 2 years of their life if I thought that I would be ridiculed socially. I worked in my church's nursery for 16 years, I think, 15, 16 years, somewhere in there, I forget exactly. I have changed thousands of diapers. And one thing I learned in that time is that it's far easier to change a diaper on a child in a dress than in any other clothing. I cannot stand onesies. They are the bane of my existence. Overalls and rompers are worse. Dresses are my favorite. Alright, let's take a look at our beautiful little nightgowns. Alright, there's our lovely little nightgowns. I think they turned out really well. I'm pleased with them. Which is absolutely adorable. Again, we've done, I think, both these color schemes before, but that's because I only bought 3 colors of flannel to use for all these projects that we used flannel for, so it ended up being a lot the same, but I think if nothing else, the wardrobe coordinates. But yeah, like, that's just very nice. It's basically the exact same type of ribbon here as what I have here. This is the same type of ribbon as the filigree silk, but it's just thinner. Which I probably will replace eventually, because I'm not a huge fan of the thinner ribbons. They kind of freak me out a little bit. I just feel like silk is extremely strong. If this had been polyester, if it had been a cotton ribbon, I would never use something this thin for a baby, because this can be chewed on, eventually worn through, and snapped. Silk is extremely strong. The likelihood of that happening is very, very slim, because silk is super, super strong. And that makes me feel a little bit better about it. But again, these are mostly just be for video purposes. We haven't made the decision whether babies going to be, future children are going to be on the channel at all. If anything, it's going to be very, very, very rarely that y'all will see them. But again, we haven't fully and truly talked about it, so it may be different. But that's what I'm thinking right now. So again, these will most likely just be for show. I've only done one event, and we stayed in a modern apartment on site that one time we camped for a 20th century event. So I don't even have a 20th century nightgown for myself, other than my original 40s one. I think it's actually later than that, but I use it for 40s videos. I have a 1940s getting dressed video that I use that nightgown in. So I don't even have myself a true vintage nightgown, but it's just a fun project, and it'll be used eventually. It's just a matter of probably not for like sleeping, if that makes sense. So, but we have two little beautiful nightgowns that are perfectly functioning for whatever we do end up using them for, whether that's just demonstrations, having them on display, worn for short videos. And there are here that if we are sleeping over an event and we decide it's safe, they are here, but I highly doubt that's going to happen. With all that being said, those are our little vintage nightgowns for babies. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe to the channel. Click that little bell notification so you're notified anytime I upload a new video. If you're interested, go ahead and check the join button. There's lots of perks and privileges you get if you join the channel. And as always, have a fantastic week. I'll see you back here in the next one.